I wanted to talk today a little bit about the state of the art, or really the state of the industry, when it comes to actions and pistol design today. I don't want to say too much because I don't know how much is public knowledge, but Beretta is going to be changing some of the things that they offer. And so the double action, this has already been checked, unloaded, and safe. The double action PX4 series might be harder to get in the future. It's a really excellent shooting gun. Highly recommend you grab one if that interests you. The thing about it is, and this is an LTT gun, of course, the trigger press is just incredible. It's very smooth, it's very short, it's very light for a double action trigger press, and it gives you all the benefits of being able to trap the hammer when you're holstering, can't press the trigger, but it's a very, very shootable design. Also handles recoil very well. It's just really a nice gun. It's a little thick, but not enough for me to really care too much. I suppose the 92s, again, these have all been checked clear. I suppose the 92s are going to continue for a while, and these are also really excellent guns. Ernest does a great job, great trigger job on them, always has. He did my first guns just about 20 years ago, and those triggers have held up ever since, some SIGs and Berettas. But I will say the 92, as much as I love this version of it, I don't really enjoy shooting them as much as other guns. They're a little too butt heavy, they're a little too light in the muzzle for me, and I just don't enjoy the way they feel quite as much. Again, the shooting is fine. There's not really any difference in function or performance. I just prefer a little bit more weight in the muzzle. But if you want a metal framed gun with an excellent double action trigger, and of course the Beretta is a long proven design, it's a very good way to go. SIGs, unfortunately, I think are a little hit or miss in their production, and I don't think any of them are as good as they used to be. I'm talking, of course, about the P series classic guns. I carried a 228 and a 229 during some of the busiest, most violent times of my career. I'm very attached to them. I've done some of my best shooting with them, but it's hard for me to recommend them today. If you have one and it works, there's nothing wrong with that. These guns are fantastic. But if I was going to buy a gun today, I'm not sure that I would go this route. That brings us to, of course, my typical or most commonly used gun these days, the P30, in this case the L. It's got, again, an LTT gun, and it's got the Gray Guns curved trigger, and that's a very, very shootable setup. The double actions will never be as good on these as on the Berettas or the SIGs when they break in or get a good trigger job on. But the LTT triggers on these make them completely usable, not a big deal, and once you get used to shooting it, you'll find there's just no issue. Of course, what I've been finding lately is that the LEM versions are really the best of all worlds. And unfortunately, they've already been discontinued, as we've talked about before. So you can have a double action P30 converted to LEM. I think that's probably the way to go if you really want a high performance trigger with all the benefits of a traditional double action. So maybe it doesn't matter that these guns are starting to go away, the LEM, the PX4, but these are two of the best triggers, traditional double single and non-traditional double action only, two of the best triggers you can get on the market, and the stuff that LTT does to them just puts them above and beyond. So the fact that the market isn't as interested in these guns as they once were is really kind of sad. And it seems that striker-fired guns and 2011 style guns are pretty much taking over. And I do think that those are about the worst choices you can make for many people. I've been really enjoying my Gen 6 Glocks. I don't have any issue with that. I like 2011s quite a bit. I don't find 2011s from anybody anywhere to be nearly as reliable as any of these guns that we've talked about. They're just not even in the same class. Glocks tend to be very reliable, although I'm hearing things about the Gen 6s from friends that have them that tell me maybe there's a few little things to work out. I've had a few malfunctions with mine, and I've had tons of malfunctions with Glocks over the years, but I would consider them to be very reliable guns, of course. But no gun is perfectly reliable. My HKs are not perfectly reliable, neither are the Glocks, just that when you have access to 14,000 guns or so, you start to see problems that you wouldn't see when some guy just has his one gun. So striker fired and hammer fired single actions kind of dominate the market right now, but they don't actually shoot better than a gun like this or a gun like this. A single trigger action, whether it's a single action or a striker fired trigger, is certainly easier to deal with than a gun that has two trigger presses, which is not, again, it's a very small hurdle to overcome. This is almost not even worth talking about, but two triggers is two triggers. And so the striker fired and single action triggers are a more efficient trigger design, but more efficient is not always higher performance or better. If we're talking about your draw, more efficient is probably going to lead to a faster, better draw. But with your trigger, there's not actually a performance difference that matters. If there's a difference, it's in your splits. And of course, that's not only a trigger issue, that's a gun size and weight and caliber issue. And if people can shoot a full-size 2011, maybe compensated, maybe not, if they can split it just a little faster than they can something else, well, that makes some sense to me. But again, splits are as meaningless as we can get. They are not what win even fast competitions like USPSA or Steel Challenge. They certainly aren't winning other types of competitions. So much more goes into winning those than how fast your gun splits. But having said that, again, with the LEM, and I'm not particularly fast on my splits in general, but with the LEM, I'm pulling 15s without any real difficulty. There are people who can go a lot faster than that. I just don't know that that matters in any way at all. So while the trigger may be more efficient, I don't know that the performance difference is anything to write home about. And of course, you get the reliability and the safety of having the package of a gun like this rather than a striker-fired gun or a single-action gun. So I guess this is just me lamenting a little bit that the state of the industry is not interested in these guns as being state-of-the-art anymore. And of course, these are not state-of-the-art in any way at all, but their performance for speed and accuracy, when you get used to them, not to mention durability and reliability, which I value quite a bit, these guns are still as good as it gets. And whether you choose a PX4, which some people think has incredibly low recoil, or something like a P30, which some people think has a higher bore axis, but to me still has incredibly low recoil, and I don't consider bore axis to be an issue worth talking about. Even the much discussed high bore axis of a SIG, this is just meaningless. They can be shot just as fast, they can be controlled, the groups are very small. High bore axis, I feel like, is something people talk about when they don't know what they should be working on. So the market's not interested in these guns, but they still perform at an incredibly high level. If they interest you, you should probably go ahead and grab a couple before they go away. Hopefully you already have some. And while I'm pretty well set, I am considering getting a few more before they're just not available. So we may talk about this again in the future a little bit. It kind of reminds me of cap and ball revolvers going into the cartridge era in the 1870s. But maybe there's not quite as big a difference now as there was then. So anyway, as Todd would have said, train hard and stay safe. And I'll see you in the next one.